Rhóna.
Hey.
Hey everyone, so welcome to Disability Justice and the 30th anniversary of the ADA with CSE, Campaign for Southern Equality. Sunday, July 26th marks the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, and July is also Disability Pride Month. So at this Campaign for Southern Equality, we wanted to be sure to take this anniversary as an opportunity to acknowledge the many LGBTQ Southerners who also live with and are impacted by disability. My name's Emily Fox. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the social worker in residence, a social worker in residence with Campaign for Southern Equality. I have my own experiences with the ADA through Lyme disease and diet restrictions. So I'm excited that we're doing the conversations this week. And I'd like to welcome my friend Rhóna Ramsey. We've been friends for
everyone.
We've been friends for a few years now. And that friendship has included talking about how we show up differently in our bodies. So I'm excited that you were open to having this conversation with me today.
I'm very excited. It's a good opportunity.
So I'm calling you a feminine bisexual Southerner, and I know that you identify as a soul priestess in your work and the work that you do. Are there any other ways that you identify?
So far as my disabilities and stuff like that, I actually am living with Wolf-Hirschhorn disease. Well, it's not a disease really, it's a disability. And that makes it very hard for me to grasp onto the more academic stuff, and the more spiritual stuff I actually do understand, just because that's a different part of my brain. And I also identify as a heart baby. I have AVSD, and I have gone through my entire life with that, and it's really been a challenge, but it's also been a blessing a lot as well.
Yeah, and AVSD, you said that's a heart defect, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the anniversary of the ADA. It was on the 26th, Sunday. How has or does the ADA affect your life? And I know for me, I use the ADA in college with food allergies to be able to have accommodations in the cafeteria. Test accommodations with neurological symptoms with the Lyme disease. So for me, I know that's where the ADA came into play for me. I'm curious.
I honestly don't have a lot of experience with the ADA, mainly because I do have certain disabilities that hold me back in regards to how to even start a process with working with them. And I also have some of my own reserves, you know, within thinking that I might not even be able to reach out to them or, you know, do the work that they ask of me because of my disabilities. And I'm working on changing that and embracing, you know, my disabilities, of, you know, knowing that they are a gift and there are people out there that can help me. It's kind of a push and pull type of a thing for me right now, regarding just feeling confident enough and also having the correct support in my endeavors of getting into the ADA and their services that they provide.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like really understanding or having access to knowing the full range of what the ADA would kind of open up in some way, is what it sounds like.
Very, yes.
I know when we were prepping for this conversation, something that you mentioned was housing, and I know that you're living with your mother. So I'm kind of curious, what has that been like for you in trying to access independent housing?
Well, it's been a challenge, specifically just because I've had trouble with getting the right assistance regarding, I know that they are there for housing people with disabilities and that have, you know, chronic illnesses, or that are not able to, you know, have an, I don't want to say normal, but a stable place here in Asheville regarding like money issues and stuff like that. So all of that is a big sweeping span of what disabilities are for different people. And I think that if I were to have, a certain caseworker just, telling me, hey, look, these are different steps that you can take. I'll be here if you need any assistance or something along those lines, because I haven't really received the correct help in where I'm at with my disability, because I have I can't really hold things in my brain very well. I try to write them down, but they don't always come out the way that I hear them. There's a lot of tension there for me to just get a task done. So if I were to have more of a support around that, I think that I would have more success in, getting my own place to live and becoming more independent for myself. And I'm sure that if I allowed some of my doubt regarding my disability to really reach out to the ADA, like what we were talking about before, I think that could help it move along a little bit better. So I'm trying to integrate into just being more embraced with what's going on and telling people. I don't really have the best, voice in telling people that I do have these disabilities. So when I call regarding housing or anything like that is like supposed to help me, I have a hard time even saying that I have certain disabilities, that I need them to go slower, or I need them to write it down and also email it to me so I have the information. But there's also that thing is where they don't really have that available to even work with in the first place regarding the housing authorities and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, so there's we have these laws that are in place that are meant to level the playing field, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done around that. And there's also these societal systems of thinking that prioritize certain ways of operating over others that then, the ADA is supposed to be in place to kind of help level that. But I'm hearing from you is that when you do call to try to access some of these resources, maybe that system that's in place that kind of thinks and operates on this one track of what is normalized to operate might miss folks because they're operating on this one system.
I think if the span was a little bit bigger in just being more open-minded to different disabilities that may not even be, like for me, I don't have an outside disability that people can see. Mine's mainly in my brain and how I function and how I, go through a sentence even, or try to grasp onto something in a logical way. If they were to be a little bit more present to knowing that there are more than just one disability out there, I think that would create a more successful, organization for them. I think that they could help a lot of people in the retrospective. Just, they may not always see the disability, but it's still there and it still has to be addressed and acknowledged and respected.
Yeah. So what are some things that you wish people knew about living with a disability? And I think we might have touched on this a little bit, so if you're calling and asking questions about resources, and folks are going to ask you questions in return, something that you said to me when we were preparing to have these conversations was that when I ask a question, giving examples is really helpful.
It is very helpful.
So that's something that,
I highly love that.
Is there other stuff that you wish folks would know?
I think that it's really important that our community is able to slow down and, you know, really acknowledge the people that have disabilities just in an everyday life. Like if someone needs a little bit of extra help in something, you know, to slow down. And even if they can't see the disability, you know, just being that generous in life is respectful and acknowledging to people as people, you know, like people want to be acknowledged, people want to be respected. And I think that within, you know, being acknowledged and taking that extra time is really important. And another thing that is really, you know, supportive to me whenever my friends act like I'm like everyone else in the way of how you look at me, how you know, see me as a human being, see me as who I am. And it may take me longer to figure out things, but I'm still like everyone else. I think that respect goes both ways, you know, even if you have a defect or a disability, whatever it is, or even if you're just normal. And you know, like it's really important for us to just be respected and at the same level as everyone else. And you know, having someone, their energy saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, let's take some extra time to help you out with this so you can get it like everyone else. And I didn't really get that in school in my earlier years. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, is people taking their time to, you know, ask additionally, like, what can I do to allow you to have this experience that everyone else is having?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm curious, how do you think being a feminine bisexual person affects your experience with disabilities? I know for me, with being a feminine cis woman, when I was a teenager and I was presenting with symptoms of chronic fatigue and digestive symptoms and things, doctors delayed my diagnosis, well-meaning doctors, and often wrote it off as anxiety or something that I'd grow out of. So I feel pretty confident that my femininity and my gender played a role in that. I'm curious how being a feminine bisexual woman might have affected your experience.
Well, it definitely affected my ability to really be respected in a relationship. You know, if I had a disability, oh, she's a woman, she has disability, she's not going to catch up as easily, let's just play games with her and use her. Or, you know, I would have these moments of not feeling respected within relationships because I was feminine and I also had disabilities, and they put those two together to kind of use that against me. And that's something that I am learning to have a voice in now, which I'm very grateful for. But that, you know, over the years in my experience of dating or liking someone, or, you know, earlier years, even having a crush on someone, you know, anything like that, it was used against me. And it really affected my life. It affected how I thought of myself. And there were times where I felt like I had to be smarter so people wouldn't play games with me. And that was hard for me because I couldn't get to the point of where I wanted to be, so that wouldn't happen. So it was a contrast in that as well.
Yeah. Thanks for answering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so life's a journey.
Yes.
I know that you as a very spiritual person, and so I'm kind of curious about your journey in regard to your views on disability.
So one of the things for me is how it's really how I've experienced it is I've had to go through surgeries and have been looked at differently, not just because of my scars, but how I function, just in my everyday life. And when I was younger, I was on heart-lung machines, which took, certain cells of my brain away as well. And it really affected later in life of how I could function, how I could interact with people. And how I brought the spiritual into it was I felt like I communicated differently than other people. Like there was something that was just different how I took in information. And so I started to, it is true, like very recently in the last 5 years, I've actually started to interact with other people that were spiritual so I could be heard, so I could, have an actual conversation that I understood. And so I kind of started telling myself, I was like, you deserve to be around people that honor you, respect you, and understand you, because you have a hard time being understood and how you look at things. And I think that, my spiritual side of me, going through those surgeries, going through, that immense pain, or just how people looked at me different, made me expand my mind and my soul and my body, like all of it expanded. So I was able to, I don't know, grasp on to something that was deeper than just this 3D realm of, what our society is. It's like I raised my vibrations to respect myself pretty much within that. And that's how it's really, been a part of my life and has really changed a lot for me in my communication with other people and how I see myself and how I assert myself with my disabilities.
Yeah.
It's really been useful and helpful, and it was a very uncomfortable thing to get into. But now that I'm where I'm at, I feel very grateful that I have just, embraced the fact that, yes, I may be slower than people. I may not know how to spell or read that well, but I am embracing my spiritual side, and I'm seeking out other people that, acknowledge me and respect me.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked me to ask you a reflection question for sort of towards the end of this conversation. So I'm curious, how are you feeling? What are you seeing personally now that is different from before?
I'm definitely seeing that coming into this interview, and even what we did yesterday with the prep, it's like I'm realizing things that I wouldn't have probably normally done. Like I love helping people, and I know that we as friends have always talked about, outreach stuff and helping people and allowing people to have that comfort of, hey, like we see you, we want to help you in the best ways that we can. And I think that taking on this interview for me, I've realized a lot about my life. And I still live with my mama, and I'm 24 years old, 25, excuse me. I'm 25. I haven't said that a lot this year. But I'm 25 years old now, and I'm seeing that, I don't have to be a certain way regarding my society around me and my age and stuff like that. I am accepting, that yes, I do have disabilities that keep me in difficult situations in life, but also a huge blessing. Like I am strongly in this radiant feeling of gratitude of being able to be living with my mama, and to having that experience of having a roof over my head, and it may not be where I want to be, but I'm growing myself to expand and acknowledge like my disability so I can tell people and so they can help me to get further in my life. But I have a lot of gratitude of where I'm at now and how much just embracing who I am and all of who I am, and really letting the world know exactly who I am. That's really hard for anyone going through anything that is different than what our social norms want or feel like is appropriate or real, or whatever it is. It, at the end of the day, I feel love for myself. I've finally gotten to this point of love, and it's not an easy journey like at all, but it's definitely a divine journey for myself of realizing who I am and just loving all of who I am. So yeah.
And there's this theme that I kept hearing when as we were talking about recognizing human dignity, and that all of us have our own experiences and differences, and recognizing the dignity in each person. So I thank you for having this conversation.
Of course. I was excited about it.
Me too. Yeah, I think it was definitely a really good point in my journey too, to kind of think through these questions for myself and my own experience as well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. So I appreciate your willingness to do this with me. Is there anything else that you would want to add?
I don't really have anything else. I don't think. I mean, unless, I don't know. I know that you took notes yesterday, so is there anything extra that was on the notes or anything?
I think we pretty much touched on all of it.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I don't think I have anything else. I feel very nourished by this interview.
A good conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you, Rhóna.
You are very welcome.
Thank you to everyone for watching this. This is one in a series of conversations around the American with Disabilities Act, and you can find out more and watch more conversations at southernequality.org.